Howdy, folks. Welcome to another episode of The Inciting Incident. I'm still your host, Tim Shields. Today's guest, Christy Whitman, is a transformational leader, intuitive channel, and best-selling author who has spent more than 2 decades guiding individuals towards energetic alignment and conscious creation. As the channel for the Council, also known as the Quantum Council of Light, she offers channeled wisdom, energy mastery, and spiritual empowerment to help clients move from limitation to flow. And who doesn't want that, folks? She is the author of several books and a 2-time New York Times bestselling author, including The Art of Having It All and Quantum Success. Prior to her channeling work, Christy built a foundation as a law of attraction expert and celebrity coach, and has since certified thousands of coaches through her program. This part grabbed my attention because I love a good inciting incident story, but rooted in her personal journey of corporate success, yet spiritual emptiness, Christy's work is born from her own transformation and now serves as a global community of seekers, entrepreneurs, and change leaders. Her message is simple: unlock your energy, align with your divine design, and co-create your reality with ease and joy. Christy, welcome.
Amen to that. Thank you, Tim. Thanks for having me. Hi. Nice to meet you.
You too. I always start the podcast with the same question to kind of create a time and a place. So who were you, where were you, and did you have any idea what you wanted to do with your life when you were 17?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yes and no. It looks so different. I knew I wanted to go to college. I knew I wanted to graduate college. I knew I wanted to make my own money. I knew I wanted a career, and I was clear it was like in sales and marketing. But I didn't want to be like sell someone a car. You know what I mean? I wanted to like have a repeat relationship with them. So right out of college, I sold liquor.
And you're never not going to have a job there. So
true. Yeah. So I sold liquor and did really well at that. Got promoted into, the one of the suppliers for the distributor. And then I had like responsibility for the whole Midwest, including the city of Chicago, for bars, restaurants, hotels, while I was in my early 20s. It was awesome.
Oh, I bet. I mean, when I moved to Seattle at like 27 and I was kind of floundering, I knew I wanted to be a writer since I was 17, but at one point I was, playing with the idea of getting into Gallo and being a wine distributor as myself. I'm like, I like people. I like to drink. I mean, this is fun. This could be work, but
that's awesome. Can I ask you, why 17? Why that age?
Well, a bunch of things happened at 17. I always say it was my inciting incident. I had my sister's boyfriend I idolized. He was like 10 years older than me, and he was an aspiring writer, and he just made looking smart. And, he was good looking, smart. He had it all going on, and he just was the first person I was ever around that made smart look cool. And I was like, I want to be like him. And then I wound up going to a Grateful Dead concert and taking a heroic dose of mushrooms.
Oh my God.
Just like
I like you, Tim.
Yeah. My mind being blown. And I was like, whatever's happening in this dimension is so much bigger than we think. And this might not even be real. So I would say it was like almost like I just like burst out of my fascia, or like the Incredible Hulk burst out of his clothes. He goes back to the Hulk, but he knows nothing is ever going to be the same again. I just really, there was a couple other things, but and then I also wanted to be a writer so bad, I started asking to be used as an instrument of peace. I was just like, speak through me, and I didn't even know that like ghostwriting or anything like that exists. And about, when I was 35, I was kind of like stuck in corporate America. And I was like, wow, I used to ask to be used as an instrument of peace. And then I started doing it again. And then boom, I linked up with Joe Dispenza, and I wound up like editing his, being his editor for like 6 years.
So
and I was trying to create a mentor at that time too. And like, I went to my first workshop with him in like 2010. And I was sitting there like, oh my God, this guy has wrapped a toolbox of language around what I'm trying to express. So I wound up getting like the greatest mentor that I could possibly have ever asked for in him.
What is so cool, being like an editor or the film guy or the DJ at an event or, any of those where you're in the production of, say, a teacher, people everybody benefits from it. Cause I would have like the guys filming me be like, God, that really shifted me. I didn't ever thought of it that way, and having that type of impact to do that at his events and to be there so consistently too. Cause that's another key to success, right? Is like having that consistency of the message. You're hearing it, but you're hearing it in a totally different way when you're editing it.
Because you're living it. Yeah. And you're like trying to figure out how to express the mystery in, an accessible way, which is like what I was trying to do since I was 17. Yeah. I probably have like 60 plus journals of my life on paper. And now I've been keeping a gratitude intention exercise journal since like October 2010. And so, yeah, I guess I'm always kind of cataloging life and trying to figure it out in a certain sense. Cool. Yeah. So how about you? Like, how do you get from selling liquor to doing what you're doing now? There must be some sort of inciting incident in there.
There was many, many. So I was in Chicago and I was born and raised in Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm not far from where I was raised, where I went to high school. As a matter of fact, I'm going to lunch with 2 other Palm girls and 2 other cheerleaders. We're having like a little reunion of our 88, class reunion
that's going to be very festive for the servers. You can just like, we'll have blah, blah, blah,
You feel the energy of that. Oh my God. So it'll be interesting. But what was I saying? Oh, so I was in Chicago. It was cold. I just couldn't do those winters. And so after my second, I'm like, I need to get the hell out of here. But at the same time, I was in a place where it was like, wait a minute. I said I wanted to do this, and I did it. I went to college. I graduated. I got a degree. I got a career, great pay. I have money in the bank. I'm investing money. I'm healthy. I was super into spin classes at that time.
Checking the boxes.
All boxes. Got a guy. Got engaged. Nobody liked him. Everybody thought I was crazy. So because he was a bad boy. Mm-hmm. Bad boys are guys you play with, but you don't marry them.
Yeah.
So, that was the moment for me where it was like, what is this?
Like, and what is this life?
Yeah. Like, and is this and this is it? It was a feeling of like, so I manifested stuff for the purpose of what?
Yeah.
What's the deeper reason for it? Mm-hmm. And like, I really started asking those deep questions. I was raised Catholic, nothing against the Catholic religion. Well, that's not true.
Altar boy.
Well, you're an altar boy.
Catholic school from second grade through college.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, college was just because of soccer. That's where I wound up, Loyola in Baltimore. But yeah, it was like my parents, I call myself a martini baby. I'm the youngest by like 9 years. And my parents are like, we're not going to make the same mistakes with them. So, it was Catholic school and all sorts of stuff like that. So I feel your trajectory.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So at this point in my life, I was looking for spirituality, but I didn't know what that looked like. I was looking for a deeper connection to the creator, but I didn't have that language at that time. I just knew that the God that I had kind of made up in my mind didn't feel right. It didn't feel, there was something missing there. And I even tried to go back to the Catholic Church, or beautiful churches in Chicago. And I remember walking on a Sunday morning, it was kind of like rainy out, and I walked into this beautiful church and on the north side of Chicago, beautiful stained glass. And I'm, it's like mythical. It's something you'd see like, in Europe. And I sit down and the priest starts talking. I was like, nope. Wah, wah. not here. That didn't.
Like
ain't
Charlie
gonna find
Brown's
it here.
Teacher and Charlie Brown.
Right. Or wah, wah, wah. It was like, dang. And so I remember walking out of that church and feeling so deflated. Just like, where do I go now? What do I do? And so it was that moment, but I started reading more. I started, practicing who I wanted to be. I quit smoking cigarettes at that time. I decided to get a boyfriend that worked for the company I worked for it with and make a lateral move to California. And
where in California?
Right outside the Bay in San Ramon.
Okay.
So, but I first was in, where did he live? In that area, but I'll think of it. Concord? I think it was Concord.
Oh my God. I that's crazy.
You're going to be like, he was my best friend.
No, but I was on a project based in Concord. Actually, I was living in Santa Cruz, but I was driving to Concord 4 times a week, which is 160 miles round trip, to train as a power lifter. That was part of the research.
Wow.
So I know Concord. That's crazy that you said Concord.
Yeah. So Concord. And so we broke up within a month. I rented a room from a very strange lady that just, I could go into it, but she was bizarre. Very nice, but very bizarre. And I had like this pool room, it wasn't like a regular bedroom. It was like a longer kind of like kid room, pool room, playroom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she had other people that she rented rooms to. So like 2 other guys that lived in this house with her, and she and I, and rented rooms. And so, but it was beautiful. Like I could see the hills of San Ramon. There'd be deer. It was really pretty and just, really great town to be in. And I needed to get my hair cut. And the only person I had met that was with that knew my ex-boyfriend that I moved there for was a woman named Janine. And so I went to go get my hair cut, and Janine had this, just this way about her. And I didn't have any of this language back then, but she just was different than anybody I'd ever met. And, she's married, she's a hip chick from San Ramon. She's married. She's got a dog, she's a dog mom. She's got this career. And I'm like, who is this chick? Like, she's just intriguing to me. And I finally said to her, what do you do? Because I couldn't put my finger on it. And she said, I meditate. Now, this is like the early 90s where, mid 90s now, but where I never met anybody that talked about meditation, I was raised Catholic. Nobody I knew meditated. It wasn't like the internet was.
You said
like
the rosary instead.
Exactly. Yeah. You didn't set intentions. You did the rosary. And I mean, you had different prayers and people you prayed to, God forbid you lose something,
Saint
Anthony.
Yeah.
That's so funny. It's so instilled, isn't it? Just so in
instilled.
there.
Yeah. Dear Saint Anthony, come around. Something's lost and can't be found. It actually works. It still works. I mean,
it does.
Thank you, Mom. Yeah.
That's hilarious. So, so she started talking to me about meditation, and it was one of those like, I'm lost. I'm totally lost. I still feel the same way. I now have thought, maybe it's through this guy, I'll find some kind of something. So I'll, move from Chicago to, California with him to be with him. And then after a month break up. Right. So now I'm even more lost. And in that time, I just couldn't do my job anymore. I couldn't do it. Because in Chicago, I was a big deal. And the company I was working for was a big deal. Now I'm in the backyards of one of the greatest vineyards ever in all of the world, other than places like Europe. I mean, you got Napa and Sonoma and Calistoga and all these beautiful places that are right there. They don't want any Parmesan wine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like our house wine is like from a vineyard that produces 10 boxes a year.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
anyway,
so I just was like, I didn't want to do that anymore. And I was jobless. I got $60,000 in debt. I went the opposite way. I gained about 40 pounds. I was in Northern California, literally without no support system at all. And so, and I didn't know anybody to room with, to make the cost of living lower, that kind of thing. And so I went out and I took out a loan from the bank because this meditation teacher, was going to teach us a form of meditation called light body. And I remember I went and got a loan. And I paid her $1,200. That was a lot of money back then. And I took this class where I meditated, and every Friday night I would go there and we would do these incredible deep meditations. And this woman channeled. She freaked me out one night she was talking and there was a lamp above her head, and it was like 2 feet, maybe, from where the tip of her finger could be. But she's talking and she's so powerful that she like flung her arms up and the light went pow.
Wow. Yeah.
I know. I was like, I've never seen anybody do that before. I mean, her energy was just so powerful. And
Father Joseph never did that. His arms didn't even blow out the candles.
That's funny. Oh God. Yeah. So she told me I was going to be a channel. She's like, "You're a channel." And I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about, but okay." So here I am.
So, I mean, how do you're told you're a channel, but then like, what do you start doing?
No, I started meditating. I started meditating. And one of the things, the very first time I went and met Melanie, I walked into this house. Now, again, Catholic girl, right? Italian Catholic girl. I'm walking up to this house and I'm hearing this like clinky, clinky music. She's got rainbows and unicorns and like, all these different yard ornaments all over the place. Very colorful house. And I walk in and she sits me down in her like, kind of like family room that has no furniture in it other than one single cushion. And there's clinky, clinky new age music and there's candles. It's dark, there's incense there, I'm looking around going, what in the hell am I doing in here? And so I sit down on the cushion, and then all of a sudden this huge, I have never seen a cat this big, this huge cat. I mean, he was just so round, named Steve. And Steve comes by me and he's like just purring by my legs. And so I'm all fixated into Steve, and I look up for a minute and she is staring at me. Just deep stare into my soul. Cause when I looked up, it was like, and she goes, "You create your own reality." And when she said that, oh my God, Tim, it was like something opened up in me that knew that. And it was like, yes, it was like a moment of, that's what I've been looking for. Like
remembrance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my head kicked in and said, how do I create my own reality? And she said, your thoughts. She started with your thoughts. I started with the words, right? So we could talk about that, but with your thoughts. She said, you're either repelling things from you or attracting things to you based on the way you think. Now she could see my mind was blown again because I'm like, my thoughts? I believed everything my head was telling me. If I heard, well, you can't do it, you're not enough, I believed it.
That's what my whole last podcast was about. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a hamster wheel if you don't have any tools to get out.
Oh, it's a messy place in there sometimes, isn't it? And it can go dark. There's like dark forests in there.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're like, how the hell did I get here? But thank God it's like having tools. That's what I always say, is that we are in a day and age now where there's so many tools at our exposure. Mm-hmm. Whether it's like podcasts like this, where you can get connection to, different tools in different ways, or different books, or, that kind of thing, all the way to like YouTube, to AI, to, we have so many tools. And just even the healing arts that have been born in the last 10, 15 years, 20 years, like you were mentioning Joe Dispenza, his work. He and I were on the cover of the Learning Annex back in, I don't know, 2005 or 4 or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. It's amazing to see what he's done, the impact he's created, because he was doing 50 people's speeches in Manhattan, in the same building I was too. So it's incredible to see the impact that he's created, and the tools that are just like normal, everyday people can use. I've never personally studied under him. I've heard quotes. I know lots of people that have. I just went in a different direction with energy and things like that. But yeah, it's amazing.
So you have this awakening experience, this inciting incident. I mean, you still got to make a living. Where do you go from there?
Well, I was doing what I was doing. So I got recruited. I remember this woman just called me out of the blue. They're looking for a marketing manager. You'd be perfect. I'm like, who are you and how did you get my number? I have no idea to this day how she got my number. You meditated.
You called it in. Yeah.
I mean, but there was no like he connected. There was no, it was like one of those, okay. It was like things were manifesting.
Yeah.
I started losing weight, like things started manifesting and falling into place.
Because you were getting into alignment, right?
Yes. Yeah. I was watching my thoughts and I was changing my thoughts and I was looking at, what would I love and the energy of it and really becoming a student. And this is what I'm a deep teacher of and have taught in all of my 7 books and all of the hundreds of courses that I've taught throughout the years is there is a difference between a lack mentality and an abundant mentality. And I was mired. I had a PhD in lack mentality and
I get it.
Yeah. And so then I was studying what's the difference between lack and abundance and how is the thinking differently? How is the behaviors different? How is the actions different? How is the internal feeling different? The processing. I was such a student of that. And I just wanted to learn from anybody that talked about universal laws or abundance or, any of that. And I would apply the information. I started seeing my own life change. And it was about 5 years in where I literally turned around. I went, wow, I went from being a girl that was in a house with 3 other strangers renting a room. I was 40 pounds overweight. I was the heaviest I had ever weighed in my life. And I had no money. I was $60,000 in debt to like just by practicing what I was learning. I was living in my house that I had purchased with my husband and I had like a size 2 body, as fit as I'd ever been, money in the bank, no debt. And I'm a pharmaceutical sales rep. So it was like, friends around me, it just within 5 years, but I just kept applying it. So I got recruited from Pepsi-Cola in Sacramento. And so I moved from the Bay Area to Sacramento. And then that's when I met my first husband. And I was with him for 8 years. We were married for 5. But it was, such a growth time of me learning. And one night, about 5 years in, I was meditating one night and a picture of a book came to me and it said Perfect Pictures by Christy Whitman. And I thought, well, that's an interesting visual. And, went to bed that night and woke up at 1:05 in the morning and the voice was talking to me and I couldn't stop it. It was like, then I started tuning into it. I'm like, well, that's not my voice. I know my own thoughts and that's not my thought. I didn't even know that. So I got up and the first sentence, paragraph, chapter just came out. And I was turning pages with one arm and writing with the other. And it was a lot. And then I went back to bed and it happened 7 nights in a row. And so one of the teachers and the only person I knew at that time that was an author, I emailed her and I said, I think I'm writing a book. And she said, well, go online. Again, online was not like it is now, right?
Yeah.
Go online and find a literary agent / publisher. So I looked up literary agent publisher and there was a man's picture named Glenn Gillette. I'll never forget. And his information was like right there. And I just connected, clicked on the link, boom. And there he was, send me your manuscript. So I thought, okay. So I sent him my manuscript. He turns around and he goes, yeah, I'll take it. Okay. Is it supposed to work like that? I don't know. I don't know the publishing industry.
I'm not having that experience, but yeah.
It doesn't usually, right?
Yeah.
It was a print on demand company. I knew nothing of publishing, right? So anyway, friends, family bought it. They were not the ideal client for this book. They were not the ideal reader. So I started speaking in spiritual bookstores and churches and people started coming to workshops and asking me to coach them. And I had no frame of reference again, because I'm like, coach you?
Yeah.
What? Do what? Like to be I was thinking like a cheerleading coach or like a football coach, that. And it made me laugh because it always reminds me of that Saturday Night Live skit where Chris Farley is the motivational guy, and he's like, "And I live in a
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
one." That's what coaches were. They were taxi cab drivers. They had a day job. They did all this stuff, and it was interesting because there wasn't a lot of people teaching coaches how to make money and how to make it do it for a living and create massive impact, so the coaching industry wasn't even what it was then. So it's been a ride.
That's pretty fascinating. I've been, I work with a lot of people, helping them bring their work to the world, but I have a new book and I've been thinking about just like jumping in and like, all right, I'm going to create a PowerPoint or just go out into the world and teach. What did you start talking about?
So I would talk about the contents in my book, but like now, what's interesting is that if you have a book or a topic for a book, you always want to start with a framework, especially if it's like a how-to or, self-help or some way of motivating or getting someone from here to there. You want you got to have a step-by-step process or at least a formula. Brendan Burchard would call it a framework, right? So, I have my new book, The Flow Factor, is out, right? And from that, I created a master class that went with a class that I teach every Tuesday night, once a week, called Mastering Flow. And so I break down flow and what people need to know and what I learned all those years ago and what changed for me and what developed and how I applied my own downloads. And, so it's like a culmination of 25 years of coaching and teaching and writing into a class. And I created the 5 C's because those are like the 5 steps that whenever you're out of flow, whenever you're living life, there's these 5 C's to get you out of survival mode and that drama, and lack mode into creator consciousness. Mm-hmm. And to be in that space of, really being able to feel the power of your belief and call it in and manifest and work with the universe and be in that, that flow.
Yeah. And it sounds like you meditated yourself into flow. And that was a great segue because I wanted to ask you how you define flow.
I love it. So for me, and people have asked me, oh, did you do research on the other guys that wrote the books on flow? And I know there's a guy, I still haven't read his book. He's got a very long name that nobody seems to be able to pronounce. I didn't because I don't do my writing in that way. I bring in the information from the council. I don't research on what other people say or what AI would call it or any thing like that. Yeah. So flow to me is God. Flow to me is energy. Flow is, it's almost like the verb of what energy does naturally and what it wants to. Like if we don't interfere with it, right? It's just a natural. It feels good. Yeah. Right. Flow feels good. Flow is positive. Flow is, it's fast moving. Flow is just that moment of just pure alignment where you are so dialed in and when you are so protected and so supported. I could go on and on, right? Flow means love. That moment where you just feel so deeply satisfied and grateful for your life where you're like, wow. I get to live this. I get to do this. Mm-hmm. I get to be with that person. I get to pet that animal. Those moments of just pure connection. Like that's when we're in those moments of flow. Because I know a lot of people would say, "Oh, it's when an artist can download a song." And yes, it can be. Yeah. I'm fascinated by artists of our time, like Billy Joel, who could just have a flash of a song and write it down. Yeah. Or Tommy Gunn from Styx. He was in a cab one time, this is in the 70s. There's no cell phones. There's no, he had nothing with him and he's a rock star and he's in a cab and he starts hearing the song Too Much Time on My Hands. He could hear the lyrics. He could hear this, the beat of it. And he ran into a house and just wrote it all down. He's like, nobody say anything. Don't talk to me, but it just all downloaded through him. That's being in the receptivity of flow.
if I'm with somebody I'm like, very comfortable with or something, and, we'll be in the middle of a conversation. I'm like, hold on. And I'm just like, listen to whatever the heck's coming through. And when I'm writing, I don't really like to call myself a channel. Like in my new book, I call it code breaking,
Oh, I
because
love that.
I was running down the beach in Oregon one day, and my mission statement dropped in, and it's, I translate light, frequency, and energy into story so as to lead others to their truth. And I was having this conversation, and this is going to segue into, what is the counsel, what information you get, how do you receive it? But, I was having a drink with a friend of mine one night, and she's like, well, how do you experience information? Where do you get it? And I had never really thought of it before, but, when I'm sitting down and writing and it starts coming in, I notice it comes through the left side of my brain, because that's what the left side does. It organizes information, measures space and time, all that stuff. But then when I was in the process of writing this book, I'd be like walking in the desert, and it was like a torrent of information would come through my right side of my brain. And I'd just be like, oh my God. And I'm like scribbling as much as I can down as fast as it comes through, and then I would take that information to the desk, and then I would use the left side of the brain to, parse it,
100%.
organize it. And then you tap into that voice, and then you're just listening and moving your hands across the keyboard. And I know that, and I'm sure you do too, is not to bring a human thought process to it, because that turns off the faucet.
Exactly. That's how I write all my books.
Yeah.
That happened to me. I have so many stories of this, but I'll just give you a quick one. I was on a cruise ship in the middle of the Mediterranean, and my boys were 4 and 6. One was in one room. One was like in the cruise ship. We had like this huge family suite. One was on the sofa, and then my husband was in our bedroom, whatever. So I had no place to go other than I went into the bathroom because I needed light. And I didn't know what the cruise ship, I was in my pajamas. I didn't want to wake up my husband and go put something on. Right. So I went into the bathroom. I stacked up a bunch of towels, and I just took my pen to my journal, because that's what I heard. I woke up at 3:00 in the morning with this voice that said, grab a pen and journal.
Yeah.
Okay. So I went into the bathroom, I sit down, and that's exactly it. It was like, and then they would tell me, write this story, like, and I know what this story is. Right. And so I'd write, okay, that story about this, just to jog my memory. Right. And then it's like more and more writing, and just continuing for like hours of doing that. But then it's taking what is in that journal. See, I always have them with me. What's in the journal. And then, like you said, creating a document and putting what you wrote into the document, because as you do that, more comes through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like the story starts to get filled in. I do that too. Like, I'll get a message in the middle of the night, and I'll wake up and just like speak it into my phone. Sometimes I don't even remember. I bet I have a bunch on there, but like, when I was writing this book, it was like, it's nothing I would have ever thought of. It was something like we're carbon-based beings moving through a carbon-based dimension to experience thoughts and feelings. I don't remember exactly what it was, but
wow, that's all.
Yeah, it's in the new book. But yeah, it's wild the way that happens. So, do you talk about the counsel?
So, it's that voice that developed a long time ago that would tell me what this is, right? Like tell me about perfect pictures. It's the same voice that I had that said, grab a pen and paper and, and download this, right? It's the voice that's been guiding me, and the energy, the energy, I guess it's energy that would come through my hands and lift my hands up, so that when I'm working with a client, I'm actually healing them.
Yeah.
It's like they're being healed through my hands, through what I'm being directed to do, and the energy that I'm letting through my vessel. So that was kind of like the development of that. It all of a sudden my hands would go up. This is pretty trippy. I was living in Montreal, Canada. We didn't have Zooms and Riversides and, Skypes even at that time. Skype was just starting, and most people didn't do it at that time. So classes were done like on, free teleseminar or whatever, or instant teleseminar. And so it was all done over the phone. And all of a sudden one night, my hands went up and they were like right in front of me. And I could like almost see a woman's head. And, I was like in her neck area. And the woman on the line goes, "Did you just put your hands around my neck?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." And I could like see her. She was on the other side of the country in Washington. Couldn't see her, but I could see her.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Oh my God, I woke up with the worst neck ache today. And it's been bothering me all day." She goes, "How did you know?" I go, "I don't know. I just my hands went up and there you are." And, so we're like going, "Oh my gosh." She's like, "Oh my gosh, this feels so much better." My hands were on fire. I could feel like, I felt like they were going to just, and all of a sudden I couldn't move them. Even if I wanted to, they were just like stuck there. So I was like, okay, use my hands. And then all of a sudden they just fell down to fell down to my lap, and that was it. And then the next person that was getting a checkout, if you will, if that I was doing some coaching with, they come in and they go, "Tell her to go get her hips checked." What? I'm like, "No."
Wow.
Right. And they're like, "Tell her to go get her hips checked." Now let's just pause for a minute. I'm not a go run to the doctor for every little thing. I'm not. If I have a headache, I'll do natural, things like peppermint oil, or I'll do acupuncture. And that's just my, I'll take supplements and peptides and all that kind of stuff. That's what I prefer, how I live my life. That's for me. That's for me. I'm not one to tell anybody to go run to a doctor. I just am not that kind of person. So they're like, "Tell her to go to the doctor." And I'm like I'm arguing with this very powerful, energetic presence. And I'm like, "No, I'm not going to tell her that." And they were very persistent. Tell her, please tell her. So I'm like, "All right, Barbara, please don't kill the messenger. I have got this huge just choir of beings telling me to tell you to go to the doctor and get your hips checked." And she's like, "Why?" And I go, "I don't know. They're not telling me that." Right. And she's like, "I don't have any pain. There's nothing wrong with my hips." I go, "Just go to the doctor and get your hip." Okay. So she did. She had cancer in her hips, saved her life.
Wow.
She had no pain that reflected that she would even have the early stages of cancer in there.
Yeah. I mean, how do you ever do past life stuff with people?
We can, and we have, because there's a whole big thing like what the council talks about on past lives and all that.
Yeah.
But they tend to like to, their big thing and why they came through me and why we have this great partnership.
Well, that was kind of where I was going.
Yeah.
Why you?
Because that was my first question. I'm like, "What the hell? Why me?" Right. You know? So, because I'm open, I'm willing, it's like, I have to raise my vibration, which I do on a consistent basis in order to receive them.
Yeah.
They need to lower their vibration in order to be received. So, I'm a committed, upbeat, I tend to my own vibration, and, I'm a let's go for our dreams kind of and desires kind of gal. Right. So I'm a student. I'm a light worker. I'm an energy worker. So anyway, they want to come through me to be able to express that every single person is an energy master. We're all have the ability to master our own energy, which really was what Jesus Christ was trying to teach us.
Yeah. And they killed him for that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then people worship the fact that he died for that. It's like he was literally not the only, but one of the great masters that knew who he was serving, that he could create his own reality, that, he used to say too, worry is a waste of time.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not useful at all.
And what an energy consumer worry is.
Say more.
Well, I mean, it's just like, if you think that you have these a certain number of units of energy per day, and there is the mind, body, and spirit all working in, in unison. The mind is taking up a lot of freaking energy worrying about the past and the future, and that's draining your energy field, and it's just lowering your vibration because you're in your mind and not your heart.
Very well said.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've thought about it a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah. Something you give a little bit of time and attention to. I get it too. Yeah. It's like once you start to like get to know this, it becomes almost like addictive.
Yeah. So what is like there's a lot of people who, when we grew up, we didn't know about channels or anything like that. Like they were like woo-woo weirdos. And it's by no means mainstream, but there are a lot of people receiving higher information at this moment on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
And towards what end? Why now? Has the council ever sort of shared that?
Yeah, same reason why me, because we're open for it. So many people are like, okay, this is not working and I need to just, like I was in that moment. I am miserable. I have no other, I've gone to where I know to go. I feel resourceless in order to change my life. I desire to, I want more, I want better. How do I find it? I have no clue. I wouldn't have been able to dream that up.
No.
Ever.
Yeah.
It's like a story I wrote in The Art of Having It All, which is one of my books that hit the New York Times. And the story I write in there is about when I met my husband, Frederick, who we've been together almost 20 years. And we have two, kids, 15 and 16-year-old together. And he's just an amazing human being and partner and, all that. He lived in Montreal, Canada. I was a girl from Scottsdale, Arizona. I did not do well in classes like history or geography. I was probably out flirting, I did well at flirting. My uncle was a teacher in the school system. So in pasta nights at this big Italian, family dinner on Sundays, he'd be like, what were you doing in the locker bay with that kid? And I'd be like, oh, how do you know that? Because it was like he had spies on me, right?
Yeah.
So, but it was that kind of time where there was locker bays and, but I had no interest in learning about Canada. Yeah. And I didn't know that there was a place that they spoke French in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea Montreal existed.
Yeah.
But I put out there and I was working energetically and cosmically, if you want to say it, in that kind of term, but I was working with his soul and I was so aligned while going through a divorce.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I guess I was just going to say like, okay, people are ready for the information. Towards what end? Are we evolving? I kind of talk about in the new book how we're evolving from Homo sapien to what I call Homo lumen, because at the quantum level, we're just light beings. But,
I love that.
Do they kind of have any insight into what we're evolving towards?
Well, would you like to talk to them and ask them directly?
Yeah, I would. I will just say first, like if you are only paying attention to social media feeds and the news, which I call the perception machine in the new book, it's the world is in a precariously balanced. But then, luckily I'm in sort of surrounded by people who are into the consciousness thing and everything. And that gives me great hope because I see people awakening and, people I never could have imagined would start meditating. They're like, asking me like, how do you start meditating? And like, they're starting self-inquiry about their mind and the programs and the conditioning that, we all come up with. And it's just so interesting. We are in the information age.
Mm-hmm.
And, so what is all this information moving towards, or what are we doing? But yes, sure.
Yes.
I'll ask the question.
Okay, perfect. I'll just have your listeners heard channelers before?
You're probably the first I've had on here, but
Okay.
maybe not. Yeah.
My voice changes a bit, so just want to let you know that. It just takes me a second. So,
Okay.
we are here. We are always happy that we get to be invited to the interviews too, because we know a little bit of stuff. We are ascended masters. You were asking about that earlier. We are a group of ascended masters, and we are here at this time because we too want all of what you are all awakening to then have a way to direct it. And that's really the purpose that we see the work that we're doing with Christy, is that there's so many people that are becoming at least desired to understand and personal introspection and being able to know thyself. And there are people that are starting to become curious about, is it really just a victim and there's nothing I can do about it? That's really what we're talking about here, is the evolvement. And that's what the flow factor is about too, is the evolvement from a society that is in lack and limitation, or another way of saying it in the drama triangle, into more specifically the victim mentality.
So what is possible for humanity if we switch from the victim mentality to creatorship, to divine creatorship?
To creator consciousness? Well, number one, each and every one of you that are practicing that, even though there may be contrast meaning what you do not want, when you know how to work around it, when you know how to move through it, when you know how to then create something different, then, and you're conscious of it, you're not going to have time nor want to or give time into talking with someone that's constantly complaining and can't see that they're constantly complaining because they're not aware of it. They have no self-awareness. And there's a lot of people that are on your planet with absolutely no self-awareness. You're having a wave of evolved and evolving human beings that are becoming aware of who they really are, because all of this has been put under. Think about the time you two were talking about this. And hello, and it's nice to meet you, dear. But think about the time when Jesus was walking the planet and how quick his movement started coming. He talked about love. He talked about light. He talked about abundance. He talked about getting rid of the worries and the fears and who can give you that soothing, and that it's the Father within. It's the me and my Father are one, and my Father is greater than I. It's the same thing as you are the universe, and the universe is you. And of course, the universe is greater than you. But the same thing is that's that connection point that it's like, dear child, you don't need to worry, or you do not need to suffer, because the kingdom of God is here now. The Father's kingdom is here now. The Father's kingdom is that energy of love, of light, of goodness, of joy, of presence, of fulfillment, that feeling of aliveness. You're alive. And many humans get that feeling of aliveness in many different ways. Some of you get it shopping. Some of you get it when you're speaking on stages. Some of you get it when you're listening to a podcast. Some of you do it when you are creating a podcast. Some of you are doing it in politics. Others of you are doing it in careers and businesses in corporate America and getting deals and signing things. Some of you are doing it through being a lawyer. Some of you are doing it through rafting or gardening, or we could go on and on. There's an infinite amount of things to do, experience, see, go places on this planet.
So what's our the best way for humanity to open up and bring this light into the world.
Individually.
Yes.
And that's why we started with, by you being in connection with your own depth, breadth, God, source, however you want to say it, when you are living that way. And you will feel more connection, more joy, more abundance, which then you are sending out those waves to all those people that you see, all those people you talk to, all those people you pass by, all the people you interact with, all the people you interview. Everything that you do during your day is affected by the vibration that you give off by your choosing to be in the light. And those people that are then in the vicinity are drawn more to you and become more of your support or clients or whomever. And those that just don't resonate will fall out of life or will get busy or just can't connect in a certain way anymore. Or you still have a connection, but maybe not as often, or maybe you create a boundary. But you are the soul. Each one of you are the soul that is, you are the soul. You are a soul. You are the energy that is the soul, that is within the body of this human vessel. And some of you are called Sue. Some of you are called Denise. Some of you are called Tim, Tom, Tony. Each one of you being called by a different name hold the same life force energy, the energetic substance that is the universe itself, that is all of the power of the universe, that is light. And you all, as human beings, get to utilize, call this light in, invite this light in, direct the light with your minds on what you want it to create, whether it's a pile of money or a partner or an experience or travel or just a good sense of feeling peace or calm or secure or free.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions for us?
I'm sure I would have 1,000, but I wasn't really, I think at the moment I don't really. I mean, that's quantum physics. What you basically said, the wave is the mechanism for the transference of energy throughout the universe.
Indeed.
And we're all just we're nodal points of awareness in the field of God, I would say.
Indeed.
Yeah. So raising our vibration is going to it's going to create ripples throughout the field.
Well, it's like this. If you think about yourself as a cell within the entire body of God, you are a cell. And within your own censorship, within your own cells and your own beingness, if you've got a cell that's being negative and nasty, it's going to affect all of the other cells around it. And then that's how things get out of alignment and things and diseases are created and that sort of thing. And so the power of the positive can transmute and get rid of that negativity, and so that the entire body remains healthy. So you see how it's like one's going to influence the other. Is it going to be the negative that influences the people around or the energy around? Or is it going to be the positive that influences and even dilutes and transmutes the negativity? But all of you have that choice all day, every day. But you are one cell in the embodiment of this universe, in the embodiment of God. So,
yeah, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Indeed. Yeah. So to answer your question, whether you realize that we fully answered it, is where are we going with all this? We're going with all this is that all that are connected to each other through light, through a community, whether it's you never meet each other or not, the light seeks the light. And so we've had to say this to many transformational leaders over the years, that the light is here and you're living in the light. It's not your job to turn around and look what's behind you and to try to take all who are in the dark into the light, Because what happens then is you go into their field losing your light. It's best if you hold the light, because the waves will go to them if they are wanting to wake up. But by you losing your own gripping, unless you are able to hold it, and that's what exactly Jesus did. He could hold that light no matter what, no matter who he was around. It could be a man dying of leprosy. It didn't matter to him because he only knew himself to be the light, and he only saw the light in others.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Indeed. We are wrapping all of you in light, and we are reminding each of you that you are infinitely loved. Be well.
Thank you.
Just imagine a beautiful downpouring of light pouring down through the top of your head, just filling you up with light. Letting yourself just relax, taking in the energy, breathing. You can even move your body. Give yourself a nice big hug. Tell yourself something kind, nice, loving, supportive. And when you're ready, come back into the room.
All right.
So.
Back to Christy.
Yeah. Will you respect me in the morning?
If I had $1 for every time I said that.
You'd have what, $1?
I'd be wealthier. Let's put it that way. That was a younger version of me. But, I asked this question. I've asked this question to a bunch of guests, but I just had a podcast before, and I asked him, what does surrender mean to you?
Good question. Surrender is one of the steps that we wrote about in the Desire Factor. Surrender is not a giving up. It's not a like an apathetic, whatever, kind of thing. Surrender is holding steadfast in a power, but recognizing that I've done what I can do with it, and now I give it over to my co-creator. So it's like, I don't need to hold this anymore. If I'm worried about something, that's not going to serve me, so I surrender that over to my creator. If I'm excited about something and I want something to manifest and it hasn't happened yet, and I'm feeling impatient, I can surrender that over, the timing, the how, the what, over to the creator, right? My soul creator, my guide, right? So it's this feeling of, I'm here in the now, I'm good, all is well. There's this thing I need to, as a human part of me, as this partnership, take care of. There's an action I need to do, an appointment, an errand I need to run, bill I need to pay, whatever that is, right? But it's like beyond that, it's like the worry and the energy, if it doesn't feel good, like surrendering that over frees you as the vessel to bring in the energy you do want to feel. Yeah. So surrender is a action between yourself and the divine part of you.
Yeah, I love that you said action, because I've described it as an active state, or an active state of engagement, or something like that. And most people get it, but I've found when I've talked to people in the military, they're like, no, you can't surrender. And it's only I don't like the connotation of surrender. And it's really only that little faction of people. But I mean, I think that at some point, if you're not in the flow, if you're not in alignment, life is just going to hit you hard until the point where you have to surrender. And it's not like I give up, it's I give over.
Exactly. It's not I give up, I give over. That is brilliant, Tim. You know what? It's like I wrote in the Flow Factor. We're always good when we are in resistance, right? We are in fight, flight, freeze, spawn. That's our natural instincts. And when that kicks in is when there's something that we find a threat, whether it's a thought, it could be an emotion we're feeling, it could be a memory we're having. I mean, nothing has to actually be happening. It could all just be, the terrorizing could just be happening inside of the mind, of getting yourself freaked out about things that probably most likely will never happen. Ask me how I know. I've done it, right? Been there, done that. We all have.
Yeah.
We all have as human, right?
Yeah.
But it's that human part that, dogs can't go, wait a minute, I have a choice, I have an option, I have free will and choice. I'm going to choose flow instead of fight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also a surrender. It's surrendering that place where I've got to resist this thing, resist this idea, resist this person, fight with that person in my head, fight with myself even, right? That feeling. And then the freeze part of it, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I hear that. So I'm stuck.
Yeah.
I feel like something's holding me back. Well, there is. It's an imprint.
Yeah.
Let's get you out of survival mode and back into flow, and then you won't feel like you're being stuck.
Yeah.
Right? Or there's the flight where it's like, I got to keep going, I got to go faster, I got to do more, blah, 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 that was my old MO too. It was like, I'm not doing enough, do more,
Yeah.
that kind of thing too. That leads to burnout.
Yeah. I mean, the 3D consciousness is about fight or flight. It's about survival. It's food, clothing, shelter, but we're evolving into what many people would call the 5D consciousness. So how would you define the 5D consciousness?
That's where and not even just from a concept, where and feel and connect with your counterpart, with the non-physical that is literally breathing you. That is the reason you have thoughts in your head, is because there's life going on within there, right? It's like that part, that co-creative part that is so much even bigger than us, that it's got your back and that you can rely on it. And that, anything you should ever want for, it's first about a feeling, and that feeling exists. And it's about expanding that feeling into it and creating it and harnessing it and connecting with it, instead of I want to feel successful, so I got to go get a career, and I got to get a job, and then I got to do this, and then I got to have that outcome, and then I got to have that achievement in order to then feel successful.
Yeah.
It's like, feel the success, because the success already exists in the field. You feel it, you vibrate it, you draw to you. Yes, you have to take action. Yes, you need to show up and do something. There's T's and not, that need to be crossed, and I's that need to be dotted, right? It's like, that's the human experience. Yeah. However, it's like, there's such a partnership that your powerful manifesting abilities, and the power of the mind, and how important it is to focus on what you want, why you want it, and how you want to feel, instead of what you don't want.
Yeah. In my new work, I define the dream as what the soul envisioned for itself before it expressed human. And then if you think about what a dream is the experience, it's the feeling of an experience you want to have. So it all goes back to like our feelings. Those are our feelings and emotions. Most people don't realize are maybe one of the most generative aspects of our reality. And I mean, I'm by no means a master. I'm wrestling still with old programs that I intellectually understand how it's keeping me from, what I want. But it's, and you said it earlier, it's about self-awareness.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have that self-awareness. And if you don't have that self-awareness to see where your programs and conditions, the shit that isn't even yours, it's your parents, it's your ancestry, it's unprocessed energy moving through biology, moving through time, then, you're just destined to repeat the same, it's Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And that's the exciting thing, though, is that now having the practices, now having the tools, the frameworks to actually move through what you don't want into what you do want through the power of transformation, and it's in understanding energy. I mean, even today that I was having a moment this morning where I was like in a dark place, and I'm like, everything. I mean, I'm a gratitude person. I'm a high vibing person. I just was in this dark place in my mind. And I was like, this isn't mine. Like, this isn't. And what I was saying too. And it was a feeling of like my dad. It was like my dad's energy.
So wild. You just said that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I asked my soul, my counterpart, I said, please clear this energy. This is not mine. I give this back. I return it to you. You can have it back because I choose to live like this. And I brought in light and I was like, oh my God, it was like, I feel like an alien being was released out of my body and I'm like, oh, I'm free again. It's wild. Why did you say that? It's crazy that I said that.
Because I have this exercise in the new book called What's Beneath That. And I remember like one time walking through the desert and I'm just like, I had that feeling. I'm like, this doesn't, feel like me. And I was like, and I went home and I drew an inverted triangle on my whiteboard and I put what's beneath that. And I started with the sponsoring emotion. And then I went deeper and deeper and deeper. And then, I got to whatever. And then next to it, I kind of mapped where it came from. And I was like, oh my God, this is my dad's, this is my dad's, whatever you want to call it. Probably the base root was his survivor's guilt in World War II from being the only person that survived this attack on his squad.
Oh, wow.
And like, I didn't even know about that until his funeral. My mom didn't even know about that.
Oh my gosh.
Those guys didn't share that stuff. They locked it in. The only people they could talk to were their brothers because they're the only people that could possibly understand that level of inhumanity. I was just watching this great documentary about J.D. Salinger and, really who he came out of his experiences in World War II, like horrible, horrible experiences. And he was searching for that innocence. And like, that's how Holden Caulfield, arrived onto the scene and it's partly why he became, a recluse. I mean, he wasn't ready for all that. And he was a pure artist and it was about his work. But, I think it sort of alludes to the fact that, he would hole himself up in the bunker on his property, like not even see his wife for like a week, which destroyed her. And I can only imagine the PTSD and the torture that,
God.
he went through. I don't know how those guys survived. I mean, my parents were Catholic and they had a lot of faith and, my dad was, daily prayer. Sometimes he'd go to, St. Patrick's in New York City on his way to work and stuff like that. But, this is a wild ride. This human incarnation.
It is. Humaning is sometimes could be a lot of fun. Other times it could be just a pain in the butt. But it's the humaning part of us that has the emotions. Because when you think about it, we go back to pure positive energy. There's no emotions. So
yeah. Well, so what are you spending your time on these days? What are you working on?
Just the Flow Factor. It just birthed out the end of September. So I'm talking a lot about that and making sure that the right people that would be benefiting from this book get it in their hands or in their ears. And so that's what I'm promoting the book right now.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Are you still teaching?
I am. Yeah. I teach several days a week. I teach a class on Tuesdays that's called Mastering Flow. And then I do healing sessions that are sometimes in groups, sometimes one-on-one. So yeah,
outstanding.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that was a definite I crafted it and created it because when I was in corporate America and I was a pharmaceutical sales rep, for me, it was like, what do I want? And I didn't have passion and purpose in what I was doing. Yeah. And so I cultivated it because I didn't feel passion and purpose. I would meditate on what that would feel like. And I didn't know the form I didn't know any of this even existed. Yeah, you don't need to. I mean, I did not know this existed when I was a pharmaceutical sales rep thinking about passion and purpose. And I don't know what that will look like. I was detached from it. It's kind of like I surrendered that, over to the universe because it's like all I have to focus on is the passion and the purpose and feel that emotion and all that. And then that's when a month later, I got the image of the book and it downloaded and started the whole entire process. So for me, every single thing I have on my planner and my calendar is something I love doing or it's not on there. you know?
Well, I think you just nailed it up and summarized. Follow, your passion, your purpose. You don't have to know what it is. You just have to feel it to bring it in and allow, the other, the energy side of reality, which is the greater side, to bring that in, and you surrender the how and get out of the way. That's the challenging part, but
well, that's the work.
Yeah, that is the work. Yeah.
That's the work.
So where can people find you?
Yeah, so you could go to theflowfactorbook.com. That's where it tells you where you can get all the where you want to buy it from, if it was online or like a local bookstore. I also have what I was talking about earlier is watchyourwords.com.
So I heard you talk about that on a podcast.
Yeah.
With Dawson Creek.
Yeah, I love Dawson. Yeah. Dawson's amazing.
I met him many years ago.
Oh, such a good guy. So watchyourwords.com. Here's why, because you know how Melanie, my meditation teacher, said to me, you got to watch your thoughts, because you're either attracting things to you or repelling things from you. Well, I say that it's really hard to watch our thoughts all day long, because there's like thousands and thousands, like there's like 62,000 thoughts a day or whatever. How are we going to watch that? But we can pay attention to what comes out of our mouth, what we're saying. Yeah. And so when we are speaking, right, there are about 30 words and phrases, a little bit more now that I've been collecting them through the years, but 30 main words and phrases that we say that bring us into that lack and scarcity, bring us into that drama triangle and struggle and all that. And when we shift the language, we then shift the feeling and the vibration. So there's 30 videos. They're 2 to 3 minutes in length. They tell you what words you don't want to say anymore, why, and what you want to say instead. So you can go to watchyourwords.com for that.
I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to mention that. Any social media handles or anything to check out?
Christy Whitman official on Instagram. Just, Google me.
Yeah.
I'm on Facebook. I'm on TikTok. That
was super fun.
Super fun.
Yeah. Irish Catholic, Italian Catholic. There's going to be some overlaps there. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, folks. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking about your dad. I'm like, I remember being in church on Sundays, because we would go every single Sunday. We were that kind of, family. I got confirmed and all that, first communion, the whole thing. And every Sunday to hear, you are not worthy to receive me. Only say that, whatever. Yeah. And that feeling of I'm not worthy to receive you.
It's like the inversion. It's the inversion of the message.
It's the opposite of what he was trying to say. And
exactly.
And as a small child, I knew that. So those inklings that we all kind of get, that something's off here, you've got to pay attention to that, because there's spiritual truth, and then there's third dimensional, what they want you to believe is truth. And you can feel into what spiritual truth. And you were asking about this, and I know we're closing, but it's like this huge wave. It's like they can only stuff it down for so long. The energy is going to be so much greater that the wave is coming up. And it's about, it knowing thyself. It's about the divine feminine. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of really good fun, I like to think of it as like the unicorn's going to come out of the sky. Yeah. We're going to have lollipops and balloons and unicorns everywhere soon. Yeah. So
it's going to be a boomerang. It's coming back the other way.
Yeah.
Folks, that was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your time and wisdom. Please share this, subscribe, do all that stuff. My handles and websites, therealtimshields.com. I have a new website. I kind of forgot to mention that about 2 months ago. But anyway, until next time, check out Christy's new book, The Flow Factor. And please share if you enjoy this conversation. All right. This is the Inciting Incident. I'm Tim Shields. Until next time. Ciao, Bella.